Hello children. Now in this section we will study more about pollen grain, some facts and more to figure out. Pollen tube we have discussed in the previous section how it emerges, that is the intines in evagination forms a pollen tube. The pollen tube was first discovered by the scientist Emeke in 1824 in a species called Portulaca. Portulaca is a flower and different colors flower is available, commonly found it. And next term is anthesis. The opening of a bud to a flower, that is called as anthesis. Palynology. Palynology is the study of pollen grains. It is a branch of a science which deals with the study of a pollen grain. Compound pollen grain. Now, what does compound pollen grain means? We know when each microspore separate out, it forms a pollen grain. But in some species, the microspores, the 4 microspores which are formed after the meiosis, they do not get separated. The callose, what you call deposition, does not dissolve, and whole microspore tetrad behave like a pollen, and that is why it is called as a compound pollen grain. It is seen in many species like Jatropha, Typha, sundew plant. Sundew plant, we are very familiar that it is an insectivorous plant, and its scientific name is Drosera. It's called as Drosera. Cyperaceae family. In Cyperaceae family, we know that from one mother cell, microspore mother cell, we get 4 microspores, and in generally all species, all the 4 microspores are functional. But in case of Cyperaceae, only 1 microspore is functional out of a 4. Rest of the 3 microspores, they degenerate. Coming to another term called pollinium. We know that we have a bithecus or a monothecus anther. Each theca has 2 pollen sacs, but when they get matured, they form a single 1 pollen sac which dehisces to release the pollen grains. But in some cases, what happens is the anther dehisces, but the pollen sac do not gives out, or they do not emerges out the pollen grains which are formed inside. These 2 pollen sacs in the mature anther, they remain as it is, the pollen grains remain inside it, and 1 single sac will be called as a pollinium. The 2 polliniums are attached with a translator which is sticky. And when the insect just sits, this translator sticks to the body of a bee and or any insect, and these gets pollinated. So this is called as a translator mechanism, and this is seen in few species of like Calotropis and orchids. This is called as translator mechanism, and the single pollen sac which remains as it is, and they combine, they are attached with the translator. The each sac is called as pollinium. The pollinium means that the pollen sac has not ruptured. Next term is pollinofossils. Pollinofossils, the word indicates us. Pollino means pollen, and the fossils, we all know that. Because of the sporopollenin, which is the most resistant substance, and no enzyme is known to degrade it. The sporopollenin is a composition of an exine. Therefore, these pollen grains are used as a fossils also. So, this is a very important thing for taxonomists in order to know that how many years these fossils are being made, how much what type of pollen grain it is, to which family does it belongs, and so on. We all know that sporoderm is what? We have discussed in the previous sections that sporoderm is the layer of a pollen grain. The outer is called as exine, inner one is called as intine. Exine is made up of fatty acids and it is highly resistant, and this is called as sporopollenin. Fossilization, I already told you that it is the most resistant thing, though it is, non-degradable, and so therefore these remain as a fossils for many years. These, one more thing, the exine we know is like this. It is variously sculptured. We know that no human being is there whose fingerprints match. In the same way, the pollen grains have the exine, that is, have the different sculptures. This helps the taxonomists to find out that this pollen grain belongs to which species. It's quite helpful for them because no two species have same type of sculptures of exine. We know that germ pore, I have already told you about the germ pore. At the germ pore position, exine is absent. If 3 germ pores are there, it is called to be tricolpate, a feature of a dicot. And if it is a 1 germ pore, then it is called as a monocolpate, which is a feature of a monocot. Next term is pollen viability. Pollen viability means the pollen for which the pollen retains its ability to germinate. Till that period, it is a period till the pollen grain is viable. That means it can germinate when the favorable conditions occur. And it is different for different species. For example, it is 30 minutes for rice and wheat. It takes months in Leguminosae, Rosaceae, Solanaceae families. Now, next is pollen banks. We have pollen banks, as the sperm bank is there, stem cell banks are there, blood banks are there. In the same way, pollen banks are there. The pollen is preserved by a technique called cryopreservation. The cryo word means cold. Cold. This pollen grains are preserved by the cryopreservation technique. That means it is given the cold temperature. It is about minus 196 degrees Celsius in the liquid nitrogen. Again, these pollens are preserved at minus 196 degrees Celsius in the liquid nitrogen, so that they are preserved for the longer time, and whenever we need the pollen grain, it is collected, it is taken from the pollen bank, and it can be used for various hybridization techniques, for different pollinations and so on, to get the different good varieties of the plant species. Now, pollen has many harmful aspects also and the advantages also. Let us discuss about the harmful effects plus. First, that it causes allergy. We know that when there is a pollen grains in the surroundings, some persons have pollen allergy. They start coughing, they start sneezing and so on. They show some allergies. Then hay fever, yellow fever can be caused by this, asthma, bronchitis, these are all the respiratory disorders. We also are well familiar with one plant called Parthenium, commonly called as a Congress grass. It was brought along with some wheat species in India, but it is hazardous, and it is ubiquitous present everywhere. Ubiquitous means everywhere it is present, and it is highly toxic for the respiratory disorders. These pollen grains of Parthenium causes pollen allergy to the high extent. Advantages, coming to the advantages part, pollen grain is highly nutritious. It is full of fats, carbohydrates and proteins. Three of them, all three of them, fats, proteins and carbohydrates, highly nutritious. It is used to make some cosmetics, pollen creams, which can save us from the UV rays even. Pollen tablets and pollen syrups are also made, which is again nutritious, and they are given to some athletes and even to the horses which participates in the races to increase their performance. So this is all given in your NCERT, and just go through your NCERT pages And in the next section we will discuss about the megasporogenesis.